All right. According to YouTube, we're live for episode number 21 of Adapt and Achieve. And I'm going to forget, so I'm going to go ahead and start it out because my last two guests have had to remind me to announce my unofficial sponsors for the day. So, I couldn't forget. I've been saving this thing all day long. Today's unofficial sponsor is Alani. I got the blue slush flavor here. And just a quick reminder, unofficial sponsors means they don't give us any money. We just like their stuff. So we thought we'd share it with you. So usually it's Spencer's coffee, some type of BPM product. But today we got Alani. So I'm going to be sipping on some blue slush today with our guest, very own Amanda Wynn. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So as you can tell by the title today, we're already getting comments. Sergio Serrano saying that Celsius is better than Alani, so we'll have to debate that. But as you can tell by the title of today, it is how a mom of four ran her first half marathon. So that's exactly what today is about. What today's episode is about. So Amanda, 3 weekends ago, is it 3 weekends now?
Sounds right.
Yeah, she ran her first half marathon, and it was a trail half marathon. So it wasn't like a road course. And both are, challenging respectively, but running on a trail is a lot harder on your body. I mean, from my own experience too. I mean, you feel it more days later. And it's just typically your time is slower because you're doing more climbing. It's more rugged terrain. So definitely don't want to count that out. But we have some stuff to dig into before that because Amanda really hasn't run a whole lot. And we were talking about this before we started streaming, before we started recording, that she really hasn't ran more than like a 5K before she decided to sign up for this. But she does have an athletic background, and we have very similar athletic backgrounds. So before we start, though, give a little intro in case people haven't, because this is the first time you've been on Adapt and Achieve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So before this, Kevin and I talked about last week. It was the Move Well podcast, and then we rebranded it at the end of 2023 to Adapt and Achieve. And I think Amanda had been a guest probably a couple times on the Move Well podcast. So we tried getting Kevin off. We did the best we could, and he somehow has made his way back a couple times. But today we have Amanda on. So just give a quick intro, who you are, your relation to Move Well. Maybe you know somebody internally at Move Well.
Possibly.
So let us know.
Yeah, like I said, my name's Amanda, and my husband is actually Kevin Wynn with Move Well. So you guys have seen him with his crazy things that he does.
Yep.
I am not so crazy. I tend to be the more normal one that attempts to level him out. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Sometimes it's the opposite, and he gives me the push. But yeah, I guess some background. Let's see. I was a elementary early childhood teacher, turned stay-at-home mom, and when my first daughter was born, I just decided it was really hard to leave my baby at home and go be with everyone else's babies. So I decided that I would become a stay-at-home mom, which I said I would never do, and God laughed at me.
Yeah, after the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now she's 8, and we actually have 3 more kids. And I'm still home with all of them, and I'm homeschooling, which I also said I would never do. And here we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, just pretty much been living this stay-at-home mom life for the past 8 years or so. You wanted me to say that I can feel your vibes. That in college, I guess my athletic background would be.
Hey, it is athletics, okay?
Collegiately.
Yeah.
Actually cheered a year at Western Kentucky, and then I transferred down. I followed Kevin down to Louisiana Tech, and then I cheered a couple of years down there as well on their varsity team. So
yeah, so Amanda's got the athletic background, but you also do a lot within Move Well internally with Kevin running the business. So we do the Hot Rod Ultra, and Amanda does a lot of logistics with that, like helping with sponsors and just actually implementing the event. She does all of the runners like bags where they get their bib and they get their shirts and any sponsor gifts. She does all those, makes them look good, because if a bunch of guys did that, then it would probably look terrible. So she does
So
all
my
of that.
early childhood craftiness.
Yeah, exactly. The elementary
to
school
work.
teacher in you is coming out. So she does all of that, and then she also runs pretty much all of the aid stations, or the aid station, I should say, because it's like a giant, like
It's an ongoing aid
it's an
station.
ongoing aid station that runners see like every 3 to 7 minutes, depending on how fast they're running. So she does a lot internally with Move Well. But kind of going back to Kevin, she was saying that Kevin's like the crazy one. Kevin's crazy ideas. I think me and Amanda probably take a lot of the what should I say, the impact of Kevin's crazy ideas. Like she gets it probably 99% of the time, like of his crazy thoughts she has to deal with. But then whenever he's coming up with like these ideas at Move Well, it's usually like, Logan, I'm thinking this. So I can't if
It's
I'm
always dangerous.
it's always most of the time it's dangerous. Like yesterday we're actually gonna have a YouTube video coming out, but we filmed Kevin running a half marathon at a Huck's gas station, which was actually so much fun. I was looking forward to that. So he ran a half marathon on a 0.11 mile loop at a gas station. So people were coming there like getting off of the Natural Parkway to like rest. So people were sleeping in their cars or just getting snacks, stretching, and Kevin like ran a half marathon. And he ran it in an hour and 37 minutes, which is extremely impressive to just do at a gas station. But anyway, yeah. So a couple weekends ago, Amanda ran her first half. But yeah, going back to the cheer thing, it's funny. Like right after I got done cheering, I like pretty much immediately found running, and so I'm curious. Like whenever you and Kevin were together, he started running a couple of years after you all were married, or was it right whenever you all were getting married?
Yeah, so he was playing professional baseball whenever we got engaged, and he actually kind of held back, I think, on a lot of athletic types of things during those days because of the fear of getting hurt or doing something that would compromise that career. And he ran like as a 12-year-old or something, but maybe before I met him, but he was definitely not into running to the extent that he is today. We started dating when we were 16, so he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
For me. But I think after he was able to put the baseball thing behind him, that's when he jumped back onto that and just fell in love with the running thing.
So like in between then and now, like I guess for lack of better ways to word the question, like what took I assume, was Kevin like one of the reasons why you decided to go ahead and sign up? Like was it like a subconscious thing, or do you think you were just like, you know what, I just want to do it? Like did him running and doing races and stuff, is that like a heavy part of what like pushed you to sign up for your first half?
Yeah, I would say I never at any stage of this whole process wanted to do it.
Yeah. You sound like my wife too.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm never gonna run ever.
I always tell people when they ask me if I'm a runner that the only running I do is chasing after my toddlers.
Yeah.
That's my extent of running.
Yeah.
But like you said, I ran some 5Ks 10 years ago or something. And that for me was a huge deal.
Yeah.
We used to train together, and Kevin would say things like, if you make it to the next tree, I'll get you a prize. Like I'll buy you a donut.
Yeah.
or I'll let you pick out a new shirt at the store. And like it was that hard for me to run. Just physically, my body hated it, and I mentally hated it, and it was just not my thing. So the 5Ks were a huge deal for me. But like I said, I definitely am not a runner. So what got me in this position, so like I said, I have 4 kids, and that means there's 6 of us in our house. So we accumulate a lot of stuff when you have 6 people in a house. So for things like holidays and special occasions, like we really like the idea of experience gift giving instead of stuff, just because we have so much stuff. And then those are types of the year where, maybe you would spend money on something that you wouldn't usually spend money on. And one of those things that I know that Kevin enjoys is signing up for races, and those things cost money. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to sign him up. Merry Christmas. I'll sign him up for a race, and that'll be a surprise. And so when I started looking into it, he really enjoys these really long races that are slightly stressful on the family as far as being the spectator. And I started thinking about all the time and the commitment that goes into training. And I thought, you know what? What if I signed up and did something with him? And so I signed us both up for his Christmas present to do a race. And then the gift is our time together and, having to train together
Right.
and, just being able to spend that time together and then, the experience of doing a race together because that's not something we've ever done. The one time that he was going to run with me, he left me in the dust as soon as he got competitive. So that's what I decided. You know what? I'm going to sign up for a race. And the first one that came to mind was one that he actually did for his bachelorette or bachelor party. So when I was doing my bachelorette thing, we were engaged for his bachelor's party. Him and a group of friends went down to, I believe it was in Georgia, and they did a race. And I remembered there was a 4-mile option for this trail race that was apparently running through a lot of creeks and maybe on somebody's farm and all those crazy things that runners think are fun. And I thought, okay, you know what? I've run a 5K. That was hard. Was it
3.1
something? Okay, 3.1. So, if I pushed a little harder, maybe I could do 4.
Yeah.
It would take a lot, but I could do it. And so I get on to sign up, and they're no longer doing that race anymore. So I was like, man. So from there, I was just clueless. Like, I don't know how. I don't know what short races would be fun. So instead, I just wrapped up a letter for Christmas and said, Merry Christmas. You can sign up for a race, with me of your choice. And so it was actually his idea that we do the Fall Creek Falls race. And that's one he's done several times for the 50K version. And when I looked and realized that it was a half K, I pretty much panicked. I was like, there is no way. Like, I cannot do this. Like, do you remember all those times when we tried to run years ago and you had to give me a cookie to go 5 feet? That is 13 miles. I can't do it. And in true Kevin form, he's like, you can do this. You've got this. You can totally do it. We could walk it if you have to. I'm here for you. I support you. We got this. Which was one thing I really love about Kevin. He's always, he's very supportive and encouraging. So I said, you know what? It's your Christmas present. If you don't think you're going to be miserable listening to me whine the whole time, then you think that's fun.
Let's do it.
Thumbs up. So before I changed my mind, he quickly got on and signed us up. So then it was began. So I was stuck.
Yeah, I love it. I think one thing that, from my wife's perspective, one thing she always said, after doing structured athletics, past high school and stuff, I think that, one thing she struggled with was once you're done with that, it can sometimes be hard to want to work out when you've had the structure of maybe a team environment. Do you feel like you experienced that after you were done with cheer and things, with the structure and here's our practice schedule? Do you struggle or did you struggle with finding ways or interest to train on your own?
Yeah, I do feel like, for me, I would definitely rather be in a social setting as far as working out goes. So, there's a lot of classes and things that you could do. But I've never been the type to just enjoy any of that. I always feel good afterwards that I made the choice and then I did it and I pushed through it and I did something that I didn't want to do. But I've never been the type that just craves, I really just want to go and exercise or I want to go run. That's never been me personally. But the rewards from that feel really good. So, when you're on a cheer team, that's not an option. You're there for the 6 a.m. workouts.
Right.
That's just what you have to do.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to show up unless it was on the schedule. We had an off day. Don't think you're seeing me in the gym because that wasn't me. But yeah, I mean, when you do those things, and I think especially when you don't want to afterwards, the benefits and, there's just an emotional high that you get from that. I did it anyway, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. I'm sure from what I've heard, you experienced that a little bit from your race too. But before we get into the race day experience and kind of the decompression afterwards, what you thought about it, and if you want to do more, so when you decided, all right, I'm going to sign up for this race, or you got signed up for the race, what was the thought process or your plan if there was one on training? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Did you lean on Kevin for any of that, or like what was your thought process on like getting ready to run this half marathon? And how long did you have from the day you signed up? Do you know? So I guess you signed up in December, or it was like a Christmas gift, right?
So yeah, I started like January 1-ish.
Okay, so
was-
about 4 months or
was
three
it
3 months, I guess, right? About that.
12, was it 12 weeks?
Yeah, about 12 weeks. So
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
about 3
I was
months.
thinking it was like a 12-week plan.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so what did the training look like? Like when you first signed up, like what was the beginning? Like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. Here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, I have 12 weeks. I know there's like a lot of like couch to 5K or
Right.
marathon or whatever types of plans out there and programs. So I just kind of did some Google research and came up with a plan. Like, okay, it was all laid out each week. This is how far I have to run, this many days a week, and this day I could rest and all that. And I got through like maybe the first week of that successfully, and life happens.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is not,
Yeah.
this is never going to work. And then actually, I kind of started feeling bad about myself, like, okay, well, I was supposed to run 3 miles today. I was too busy, or, something got in the way, or maybe, I started, but my body felt terrible. And so I could only, do 1 mile.
Mhm.
And that just really weighed on me. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I
Yeah.
should just quit. You just run it by yourself.
Mhm.
It's good get out for me. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it. But what I decided is, something's better than nothing. Anytime that I could move my body was better than not trying at all. And so, maybe every day I didn't get to follow the protocol that I had laid out, which I eventually just chucked and said, my body's going to have to speak for itself.
Right.
But, I had to start really, really slow, which was kind of disappointing in the beginning because I went from this athlete status to, okay, well, I should be that same person when I start again. And I was not. So the first time I hopped on the treadmill, I was like, all right, I'm just going to get a couple miles in. Here we go. And within like the first 20 seconds, I felt like my heart was going to explode.
Yeah.
It's like,
humbled you.
I am never going to do this. So I had to start with, okay, let me just walk a minute, run a minute, or run for 30 seconds, or whatever that is. And then just slowly build up further and further. And I started off with, I'm not even going to look at the mileage because obviously for me, I was going very slow.
Yeah.
And I'm also comparing myself to someone who runs 50 Ks in their sleep. And so to me, even if I were to accomplish a mile, which at that point would have been huge for me, it seems so minuscule in comparison to the running community that I'm always around. So I just turned that off and said, it doesn't matter what the mileage is. I'm just going to do time. So if I can be moving my body for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, then I'm doing more than I was doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of started there.
Yeah. I think, like you made a great point, not saying this exactly, but you kind of alluded to like the statement that like hard is relative to each person. And I think it is really easy, especially with like running and fitness, to like get roped in and like see what other people are doing, just place that expectation on yourself. And especially being a parent in general, but especially being a stay-at-home parent, like that impacts your schedule a lot more than a person that even has a normal 9-to-5 job, because you're caring for another human. You can't just step out. So I love that like you were able to, because I mean, like you said in the beginning, it could have been really easy to just be like, okay, forget it. Like, I can't believe I thought I was gonna be able to do this. Let's just be done. But yeah, you realized, and I think you're an amazing testament to somebody that could have just been like, never mind, I'm not going to try now. Maybe when the kids are older, but like you just did it anyway. You're like, all right, let's just take a step back and just realize where I'm at. And if I need to run for 30 seconds, because that's all I can do right now and feel halfway decent, like my heart's not going to pump out of my chest, like that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And obviously, like starting in that position and just being okay with it, like paid off, because you were able to go and run the race and complete it and feel good after. So I love to hear that, because I think that's where, I mean, even now, like I've run multiple races, and if I take weeks off from running or something, like that first run back always will just kick you in the mouth because you feel like, have I lost all of my fitness? Have I lost all my endurance? So going, not running a 5K for, I guess it was about 8 years, right? Before your first kid,
At
right?
least maybe 10.
Yeah, to going and then now you're training for a half marathon. I can imagine that's really intimidating. So I love that you were able to do able to kind of take that step back and like train and stuff. And we were able to keep up with it a little bit here too, because pretty much after every weekend, me and Sergio were like, how did Amanda's run go? Like, how many miles did Amanda get this weekend? So obviously you put in training, and it may not have looked exactly like what you thought it would when you first signed up, or what your Google training plan gave you or whatever. But I want to hear about how the race went, how you felt leading up to it. So maybe like, a couple weeks out, like, how were you feeling? Did you feel confident? Did you feel nervous? Did you feel both? So like, walk me through that after, when you're just a few weeks out from towing the line.
Yeah, and I'll say too, it was really easy for me to make excuses. Like, excuses came very natural and easy for me. And one of the biggest excuses, aside from my own personal fitness that I had, was my kids. And I would blame a lot on, I can't do this because of my kids. But what I ended up doing is including the kids in some of that. I'm throwing this out there in case there's any other moms that this could encourage. So some examples are, maybe we would go to the park, and while the kids were playing on the playground, I would run loops around the playground so that I could still watch them and, still have time for me. And, we're really blessed too. Our house actually backs up to a park that
it's
has
awesome
a running
location.
trail on it.
Yeah.
So it was easier than it is for most people, I guess, to just, step out my back door and go for a jog. But, maybe the kids hopped on their bikes and, I ran alongside them while I did that. Also helps that there's a gym here in the MoveWell office space. So I brought the kids with me to the gym several times. On Saturday mornings, Kevin and I would come work out, and the little guys are doing push-ups next to us and things. And what I got from that is, in the beginning, I felt a lot of guilt. Like, I can't do this because it's going to take away from my family. But when I was actually in it, what I've realized is I was actually giving them things that I didn't realize that I could. Just them being able to see mom is trying something new, trying something hard. I just feel like those are skills that I would love to instill in my children for things that, and maybe it's not necessarily, a running type of race, but in life you encounter lots of different races in different forms, that I hope that could mold into them being able to use that for a struggle in life, to know how to push through and do things. But involving the kids in that with us was really rewarding, I think, for our whole family. But anyway, sorry, I love that. Throw that in.
Yeah.
Leading up to the race, the farthest that I ever got to run, training wise, was 7.5 miles. I had 13 to do. So if you can imagine, I went into it mentally not thinking that I was going to be able to be very successful. Like, 7.5 miles was really hard, and I still had a long way to go.
Yeah, it can be intimidating
to finish that. Yeah, it was very intimidating. And then on top of that, I had changed shoes. I don't know if this is related or not, but I'm just going to blame it on that.
Yeah.
Because it's an easy.
It sounds like it was.
Thing to blame.
Yeah.
Or it could be because I'm old, but we're just going to go with the shoes.
Yeah.
So I have some trail shoes that I really don't wear very often. And I thought, this is a trail race. I should probably break these trail shoes in more and wear my trail shoes for the race. And so I had been wearing tennis shoes that I wear all the time. And I switched a couple weeks out and thought, I'm going to wear these trail shoes. And immediately I started having really bad knee pain, to the point where, like, after my runs, like, I couldn't even walk. and I would rest it for a few days, and I would think everything was good. And when I would go on my next run, it would just immediately come right back and really bother me. So I actually switched back shoes, and it was better. But by that point, I had already kind of inflamed the knee and had some hip stuff going on and knee problems. And I thought, okay, now I'm going into this like longest thing in my life, and I'm in pain, and like this is gonna be terrible. So yeah, I didn't really feel very prepared on race day. I remember that morning. I was getting ready, and I just looked at myself in the mirror. Did not look like a runner standing there. And I said to myself, this whole thing started as a gift to Kevin. Somehow it's morphed into being about me because I've never done a half marathon. And, now I've got, my family cheerleaders behind me and friends, supporting me. And somehow it's morphed into being my thing. But this started for Kevin, and this is about Kevin. And I am not going to get out there on that trail and whine and complain and make this miserable for him. This is going to be a fun day.
Yeah.
Whether
no
I'm
matter
crawling
what.
the whole way,
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. And, if nothing else, these are moments that I get to spend out in the wilderness with my husband, maybe just taking a hike or whatever. And obviously our kids weren't with us. We were really blessed. Our in-laws came along with us for the trip and watched the kids for us on the sidelines while we were running. So if nothing else that I can get out of it is really valuable time with my husband, where we can just chat and stroll through the woods.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lovely day.
Yeah.
And then the race gets ready to start. I get my shoes on, and I go into the bathroom before the race starts, and every other woman there at the half marathon decided they were going to do the same thing. So I'm standing in line with all these athletes, all these half marathon athletes that you could tell had been there before. This was their jam. Like, they were prepared. And I thought, I do not belong here. Here I am. I'm not prepared. I'm not a runner. What am I doing here? And immediately I just got tidal waved with all those feelings of doubt and guilt and struggle. And I thought, I do not belong here. That was, I'm in a sea of people that are here, know what they're doing. And then there's me. And actually, I believe it was Chad Wright, maybe, that I had listened to one time.
That's either a really good thing or a really probably give you a lot of insight. We'll say that.
Well, he had a quote like, and it was race related too, I believe, about feeling like that you don't belong, and when you push through those moments, that's when you really grow. And so I just rolled my shoulders back and I said, I'm gonna grow today. And I walked on out ready to begin. So that's how I started.
I love it. Well, one thing that I was thinking while you were saying, you looked at all those other women, you were like, these are athletes, these are runners. Do you ever think maybe they looked at you and thought the same thing?
No.
Sometimes you never know. I mean, it's so funny, especially whenever you probably noticed it, whenever you go to trail races, like anything that's ultras, like some of the cats you see there, you are like, what the heck? Like, long hair, long beards, maybe like long baggy shorts for the women, or like, cut up shirts. You're like, what is this person doing here? And they're like just one of the best runners you've ever seen. So really, it's like you can't look at somebody for sure and just assume that, just because they have great gear, they're dressed good, like you don't know for sure. A lot of times now, whenever I go to ultras, if I see a guy with like a long beard and long hair, I'm like, well, I'm screwed. Like, this dude is about to
start
smoke.
sizing yourself up automatically.
Yeah, I'm like, he's gonna smoke everybody. So it just goes to show. I mean, I'm sure there were probably women in that bathroom that you saw that you were like, thought, oh my gosh, they look like they're the best runner ever. They probably didn't even finish the race. There's people that look that way that you might think they're just like unstoppable, whatever. And it's totally opposite of what you think. So, but yeah, like you said, roll the shoulders back, line it up, and just go for it. So now, walk me through the race experience. Like, when you first started, how did you feel when the gun first went off? And then, like checkpoints throughout the race, and then take me to the end. How did it progress? Like the way you felt when it started to the finish line.
Yeah. So when it gets started, I told Kevin, like, I was never in it to try to win or do well. My goal was to finish.
Right. Yeah.
The farthest I've ever gone, and every step over 7.5 miles was the farthest I'd ever gone.
Yeah, it was a PR.
Yeah. And so it's like, here I am with my bum knee, not in a sea of women that are athletes. There were men too. I say women because
You're relating to them. Yeah.
I'm related to the women, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not trying to win. I just want to finish. So I don't want to be in all these people's way. So let's let the winners go first, and we'll just start in the back because we're just here for the scenery. And so, we got towards the back, and we started off, and you kind of start up a gradual hill, and we did that, and hey, my knee's not bothering me. This is great. So I'm just gonna, let's keep trudging. And we got a little bit in, and Kevin started trying to hand me some electrolytes, and I was like, I don't want that. I'm fine.
You sound like Kevin when you say that.
He's like, you're already not listening to me. It's like, sorry. So then we get to like our first pretty decent hill. And at this point, we're just now in, and I'm feeling good. So I start running up the hill, and Kevin says, oh, no. You don't want to run the hills. When we get to a hill, just walk it. You're going to go the same speed anyway. You're not going to go fast up a hill. And when you get to the top, you're going to be worn out. And so you might as well just walk it. And I'm like, but I feel great. I don't want to walk. We're just barely into this race. I feel like I should run until I can't run anymore. But I thought, he's more experienced. Okay, let me guard down. I'll just do what he says. So we walked the hill, and when we get to the top, everyone else that had been running by us up the hill were now walking at the top.
Yeah.
So, he's right.
Yeah.
It's been there before. So after that, just anytime I got to a hill, I just walked it. Big or small, I was just like, well, I'm not trying to, win any awards here. So I'll walk it, and then maybe I can finish. So somehow or another, I ran, besides the hill, the 13.1 mile half marathon. And when we would get to the aid stations, what I was really afraid of was if I ever stopped, that it would get in my head that I can now walk. I don't have to push anymore. I can slow down, or I can take it easy. And I was afraid of letting myself off the hook.
Yeah.
And the aid stations seem like a very tempting place to do that.
Oh yeah.
Once you get there and you got some water and everyone's chatting.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I'm not going to stop there. And, thankfully for me, not everyone has this luxury, but I had Kevin with me, who 13 miles was a stroll for. And so he was my wingman, my crew support. And so I would tell him, you can go fill up the water bottle. I'm just going to keep going. So I actually passed every single aid station. I never stopped at a single aid station. I ran through them all. And, we had our water bottle with us, and, there was a couple of times that Kevin stopped and filled that up and then caught back up with me. But I just kept running and walking the hills, running and walking the hills, and went through some creeks. That was fun. Lots of mud puddles, lots of thorns, trails that you could barely tell were trails. Every once in a while, there would be someone in sight, and we would laugh about being like a lion stalking the prey, and just slowly moving in on them.
Yeah, catching up
to them. And I'd pass a person or two, and then just keep going. And before I know it, 1 mile was gone, and another mile was gone, another mile was gone. And so we get to about 11 miles was probably the last time I remember hearing Kevin tell me where the check-in. And his watch makes a beep sound for every mile.
Yeah.
And I say it's kind of like Mario. I'm leveling up.
There you go.
Every time I would hear it, I was like, yay, leveled up. Farther than I've ever gone every time. And so I heard him say 11 miles, and we'd run a while. Hadn't heard it beep again. So I'm still assuming we're somewhere in 11 miles. And so I'm pacing myself. And eventually he says, we're almost to the road here, which goes back to the finish. So, you're almost there. And I'm thinking, okay, I got like 2 miles or something. And he said, he's probably about a mile left. I was like, what? A mile? And he's, well, maybe even less than a mile. And so when he said that, I was like, oh no, I still have more left in the tank.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not leaving here with stuff left in the tank.
Mhm.
So as soon as we hit the road, I mean, I just like
Turned
went
it
for
on,
I
picked it up.
I picked it up and I just ran. He actually stopped. He was he got the camera out of his bag and was trying to take a picture or something. And he said he looked up and I'm just way down the road somewhere.
Left him in the dust. You left him in the dust this time.
He said he had to run like a 4-minute pace or something to catch up to me because I was so far down there. But in my head, I was just thinking, like, I still feel great.
Yeah.
You know, like there were a few times where my knee or my hip flared up and I would just like put my mind on something else, try not to focus on that, push through it. And before I knew it, I didn't even know it was hurting anymore if it was hurting. And I was like, I'm not leaving here with anything left in the tank. And I just pushed it. We got to the finish, and it's kind of a family tradition to run through our finish lines together. So like the kids jump in. I say us. They jump in with Kevin.
Usually Kevin.
And I had said at the beginning of the race to the kids, hey, mommy gets to run through the finish line today. You guys can run through with mommy when I get to the end. And so I get there, and I was expecting it was going to take me like 4 hours.
Right.
Because when I ran that 7 miles, it took me 2 hours. So I'm like, okay, about double that. I'm going to be on trails. It's going to be hard. I'm going to be tired. I'll probably crawl half of it. So probably like 4 hours. And at one point, Kevin said, if you keep going, you might get there under 3. And for some reason that stuck in my head. I was like, I could do it in under 3.
Yeah.
And so when I got close to the finish, there's the timer, right next to the finish line, and it hadn't gotten to 3. And poor kids, I was like, just forget about you guys. My new goal was like, I'm going to run
under
through
3
this
hours.
finish line before 3. And if I stop and I wait for them to say, come on, guys, get with me. Like, I'm not going to, and I don't even know why that mattered because it's not like I was like beating anybody by getting there, but it was like a personal thing. And so they just had to like fly and catch up. I didn't even stop and wait for them. I just
like,
cut it
no,
in my
mom's
gear,
not waiting today.
I'm just going. And Ava, my oldest, she caught up with me. She got to run through. And then the other 2, I think, ran through with Kevin because I left him in the dust too.
Yeah.
So forget the family finish.
Yeah.
Like we were getting through under the 3 hours. So yeah, I ended up finishing. It was like 2:58 or something like that. And I was super proud.
That's awesome.
I walked through the finish. Well, after the finish line, I was still able to walk.
Right. Yeah.
I thought for sure, like, I would just be dead after. My mother-in-law handed me the baby right away. Congratulations.
Here you go.
Here's your
Back
baby,
to it,
Mom. And I packed her around, and we had a picnic out there, and it was life as when it went on a hike afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, there was a few days of being sore afterwards, but surprisingly, I was more prepared than I thought I was. So I felt good.
I mean, I've always said whenever we were, when Kevin would tell us about your training over the weekends, and he was like, yeah, Amanda ran 7 miles this week. And we were like, oh, she's good. Like, if you can run 7 miles or like 8 miles, whatever, like I think you get to a point in training where you can will your way through the rest of it, especially if you've been training consistently. And you did for, about 12 weeks, So your body recognized what it felt like to run pretty significant distances. So I'm sure that probably helped a lot. But what was the biggest differences that you could tell from like running on road or like a treadmill compared to the trail? Was there anything that like really stood out that you felt really different?
I mean, I think the trail was way more fun.
I agree. Much more fun.
And I think a lot of it is just the mental aspect of you don't even know you're running, which you can't run as hard as you could, I guess, if it was flat, because you're so busy jumping over things and your brain is thinking, dodge this rock so you don't roll your ankle and crawl under this tree that fell across the trail there. And, I think there's just so much, it's just more fun because you're just thinking about different things. So you can't even focus on, the fact that you're tired or that you're sore or that you're hurting because there's so many hurdles that your mind is focused on.
Yeah, you have to really pay attention compared to road.
There's a few times where, you would come out of the trail and we kind of hit a straight stretch and I was like, man, this is boring. I can't wait. I need to go back into the woods.
Yeah.
Because those parts were way harder, I think, mentally for sure
Mhm.
than, jumping over the rocks and through the mud puddles and
Yeah.
through the creek,
Yeah, something about, like, I mean, being in the woods anyway just makes you feel so much more, like, alive and alert. I always enjoy it so much more.
Yeah.
So, um, the last bit is it a big loop? Is that what the course profile
It was
was?
a loop, yeah.
Okay. So it's all trail until the last, what, like, mile or so? Is that right?
So there's a part when you first start that's on the road, and then when you finish, there's a part on the road, and then there's a part that's like a maintenance road, maybe
yeah,
you could
yeah.
call it. So it was kind of gravel area, and then there was one stretch that you could technically say it was through woods, but it was like a mowed path,
Mhm.
and there were trees on both sides, but you weren't like jumping over things.
Yeah.
It was
Like a
it was a
field.
gradual, just straight uphill.
Mhm.
I kept calling it the sneaky uphill
Yeah.
because it didn't look like there would be an incline there, but the whole time your body knew like
Yeah,
you
you
were
can
going uphill.
yeah,
could
you can feel it. So you refused the electrolytes in the beginning, but what was your
did.
fueling
I did.
strategy? So did you end up giving in?
I
And
did give in.
Okay.
Yeah, and he made me drink. He said, "I want you to get through this whole bottle before we get to the next aid station." And so every few minutes, I think he had it timed out. I didn't even wear the watch. Just
Okay.
let him be in charge of that because there's GPS on it. And I know all the times that I was training, I was just stuck on looking at that and how long have I
Yeah.
gone? How, surely I've run 5 miles. What? It's only been, 0.2 miles.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and that really got in my head quickly. So I decided, I'm in it now for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what does it matter how much time I have left or how
Right.
much farther I have left? So Kevin wore the GPS watch, and I didn't keep up with it at all, other than hearing the dings.
Yeah.
But I think, he had a plan in his head where ever so often he was like, okay, it's time to drink.
Yeah.
And so I drank the electrolytes begrudgingly
Mhm.
and hand it back. And I have to finish it before I get to the next aid station.
Yep.
And then we made it through that first bottle, and then we were just filling it up. They had like Powerade or something at the aid station and water. And so I said, just do half and half. So it's
Yeah.
not too sweet, but it's not just straight water.
Yeah.
So I called it my sugar water.
Yeah.
And I finished it off with that. But no, I never cramped, or they did have like some trail mix or something along the way. But by the time I got to the end, I was ready for lunch.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I think that half marathon is like that perfect distance too, where it's like once you get done, it's like, okay, I'm really hungry.
Yeah, I ate like 3 hot dogs
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end.
Yeah. Well, good. That's awesome. You have an appetite. Because sometimes it just depends, like how the run went, how the weather is, how your body feels. Like sometimes you have no appetite. Sometimes you feel like you can eat a whole cow.
Yeah.
So that's good that you had an appetite.
I actually brought that up because the last 5K that I did was I was working in the school system, and our school like hosts a 5K run, and so I did it as part of representing our school. Had a team. We weren't running together, but they were trying to make sure that employees had so many people represented or whatever. And when I got to the end of that, as I was slowing down to the finish, and here's all my colleagues around, clapping and everything. As soon as I started slowing down, like I thought everything was coming up.
Oh no!
I started gagging and heaving, and of course they're all backing.
They're like, get away from me.
And so after I did 13 miles and ate a hot dog, I was like, man, like
A little bit different than
that was a whole nother experience than that last 5K I ran. So I was kind of proud of that.
Yeah,
too.
that's awesome. That's the worst feeling, like feeling that like nausea come up during a run or right after. Ugh. So I'm glad you had a positive experience. But now I'm interested to hear, are you open to doing another race?
I would totally do it again.
I would say
I would
I got some
totally do it
intel
again.
that you think you could do it again, or you could do more, you think?
I was a little sassy about the first half of the race. I was feeling good, and I told Kevin, I was like, you know what? Like, honestly, I think 13 miles is too easy.
It's gonna be too short.
This is not bad at all. And by mile 10, when we're going up this huge mountain, I wanted to quit. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I did 10 miles. Like, I'm tired. This hill hurts. Like, I could be done now and I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And he said, this is the time, whenever you make or break yourself. He's
100%,
like, like now you're actually starting the race. None of the other stuff even mattered.
Yep.
Like, this is the moment where you choose who you are. So I was like, okay, well, I'm a beast. That's who I am.
I ain't stopping then.
I'm going to keep going. But yeah, there were times where I was definitely tired and I thought, I don't know about this. But when I finished it, I felt great. And I was like, I could do it again for sure. And the other night, Kevin walked in and I was on my phone and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, I don't even want to tell you. And he's like, okay, what are you doing on your phone? I was looking up another.
Oh no, another race.
Marathon, yeah. And then this past weekend, I said, yeah, I have something crazy to say. Like, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to ask anyway. He's like, okay, what is it? I was like, do you care if I go for a run?
Wow.
He thought I'd lost it for sure, because that is, as I said in the beginning, of who I am.
Not who you are.
I'm not running for fun. But yeah, I was like, I feel like I would love to just get out and go for a run this morning. I'm also not a morning person, and Saturdays, that's my time.
Yeah.
And so I chose with my time on a Saturday morning early to go for a run.
Out of character for you.
Very out of character.
So your perspective has definitely changed then since the race.
Some of these crazy runners don't seem as crazy anymore.
Yeah.
Some of them I still think they don't have all their marbles.
Yeah. It depends on the event.
You run 100 miles. I don't know. I can't relate to you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I could relate to the half marathoners now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you experienced that like at the 10-mile mark, we were like, okay, I'm over this. Like, I don't want to do it. But then when you went ahead and did it anyway and you finished, like you look back and you're like, that actually wasn't that bad. That was kind of like fun to know that I thought I had nothing left, but then I did it anyway. So then it makes you think. I think that's why people continue to run and like do races, because they're like, well, what else can I do? Like, what else did I have in the tank? And I think you experienced that exactly. So I'm sure it probably added some curiosity to you, didn't it? Like, what else could I do? Like, could I do it again? Could I do a harder race?
For sure.
Yeah.
And there was one moment there where I thought, I've birthed 4 babies.
Oh.
I can run up this hill.
Yeah. I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, women like could all be the best ultra runners, the best runners ever, because your bodies were meant for giving birth, like birthing a human. Like, that is just, it still blows my mind every day. I'm like, women would be the best runners ever if you just give it a shot. She's like, no, I'm not doing it.
It's like, I'm tougher than this.
Yeah.
When I wanted to quit, tougher than this. And when I got finished, I had, because of all the thorns and stuff on the trail, I had blood running down my legs.
Oh yeah.
And so my daughter was like, Mom, you're bleeding. And so I hadn't even noticed it. And I looked down and I just have like scratch marks everywhere and blood dripping down. I was like, man, I look awesome.
Like, yeah, it doesn't faze me. I'm used to this stuff.
I felt pretty cool.
Oh yeah. It's like, I'm not even gonna clean it off. I'm just gonna leave it.
I definitely left that.
Oh yeah. At your family picnic, covered in blood, eating your 3 hot dogs. Yeah.
I'm not usually the hardcore person, so yeah, I wore that like a champ.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, to kind of wrap it up, you talked about some of the things you did as a mom to train and fit it in. But what would you say to, a parent or a mom that maybe wanted to do something like this and they feeling intimidated, like they don't have the time? Like, what is what's a tip, or like what's some advice you would give them to kind of push them and get them out of that comfort zone to pursue and go for something like this?
Yeah, I think our lives are what we make of it. And, it's so easy to come up with those excuses and everything. But when it comes down to it, you make time for what's important to you. And whether that's, shifting things around or, pulling in some help whenever you feel bad about it. It comes out in your story of what's important. So, for me, I had to lay those excuses down and, and know that I'm not a runner, and know that all those other great athletes were not me. but that I had just as much right to be there as the rest of them did,
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And just for me, lately, I've really had a hard time with only identifying myself as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've really been working on, there's so much more to me. And you know what? Being a mom is my favorite role for sure. Like that's my favorite identity. But there are days when you feel like, is this it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Especially being a stay-at-home mom, because not that I need any glory or anything for my life, but I would say a lot of women feel this way. And from coming from my teaching background, I had students when I would walk through the cafeteria reaching out for me, Miss Amanda, come give me a hug. And I had professionals asking me for my opinion and just things that make you in this life feel valued. And those are things where you shouldn't be seeking your identity, but unfortunately we do. And so when I became a stay-at-home mom, I didn't have those types of things anymore. And so I just really got stuck in, this is who I am now, and this is all I am. But it's not what God has designed me for, and I know that He's called me to big things, and it was time to stop making excuses. And so, if it starts with one step, it's one step. One step that I took outside of my comfort zone, that I didn't take yesterday. If it's 10 seconds on the treadmill, that was 10 seconds I didn't take yesterday.
Right.
If we're all loading up to go to the park to make sure that I can, have some time for me, my kids aren't seeing it as time away from them. They're seeing it as a reflection of something that they can be. And so, it starts with the mindset change, I think, and then just one step.
Just meeting yourself where you are.
Yeah.
I love that comment about like, I deserve to be here too. I think that's so valuable. And like anything that scares you, it's like there's no rule saying that you can't go from your couch to run a half marathon or whatever. So I think that's so valuable. If there's anything you take away from that, definitely from someone whose life and schedule is more complex than most of ours, like Amanda, with 4 kids, being a stay-at-home mom, like she's a testament to getting out of your comfort zone, even when you have every excuse, and all those excuses nobody would probably say anything about. They're like, yep, she's a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids. Like, I don't blame her for not running a half marathon when she signed up for one anyway. So yeah, it just, I mean, even for me, like hearing you doing this, like it's incredibly inspiring. I'm incredibly proud of you for doing it too. It's awesome. And I know you are going to, and probably do already, inspire a lot of moms just packing the kids up in your brand new van out there. That they have an awesome new van. The Wynn's new Wynnmobile is sick. Van. I love it. It's all black wheels. Anyway,
it's a 12-passenger monster.
It is so cool. They got the black rims, all-terrain tires on it now. So Amanda's rolling around. They're probably like, who is in that? And the tinted windows, like, who's in that? And Amanda pops out.
Like the homeschool bus.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, anyway, so just great job. Thanks for sharing your story. And I'm excited to see what other races you have in the future, because that's going to get you back on the podcast when you do another race.
Are you signing up with me?
I will sign up with you. You know what? We'll mark it down right now. I'll sign up with you. Well, maybe we should do a Move Well race together. We'll all go and do it. So Amanda has to decide the next one, though. She's not going to leave it to us. So anyway, that's the recap on the Fall Creek Falls half marathon. Amanda's first half marathon as a mom of 4. Absolutely crushed it. Awesome journey. Thanks for sharing it. And thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.